Welcome, everyone. We invite for you to connect with the campaign for grade level reading on social media and to tweet any thoughts, comments, or reflections you have during the webinar using hashtag Learning Tuesdays. So my name is Sierra Sanchez. I will be behind the scenes helping with this conversation. I wanted to turn your attention to some housekeeping tips. We do invite everyone to utilize the chat box and the Q&A box to share any thoughts you may have. We will dedicate some time during the end of the session to respond to any questions you've posted in the Q&A box. The webinar is also being recorded and live streamed on Facebook, and that recording, as well as any resources you see in the chat, will be shared in a follow-up email to all webinar registrants. Finally, we'll invite for you to take a brief survey towards the end of the session to help with our continuous improvement. And before we begin, I wanted to call your attention to our upcoming webinars. Next week, we have an exciting double header with a funder to funder conversation, followed by a session co-sponsored with Attendance Works. Registration and more information will be in the chat box, and we hope you can join us for these exciting opportunities. And joining you now is Emily Samos, Senior Consultant with the Campaign for, joining you now is John Gomperts, Executive Fellow with the Campaign for Grade Level Reading. Apologies. Thank you and enjoy the webinar.
Hello, and thanks to everybody for joining us today. It's good to see everybody and hopefully be seen by everybody as we take a deep dive into the Biden administration's big bets on the supports for students and young people. Thanks always to the wonderful Sierra Sanchez, who is the behind the scenes, or just for the moment there, not so behind the scenes, master of all the technology that makes these events so good. And thanks also to Emily Samos, who many of you know as the mastermind of so many of these sessions. Emily will join us later when we get into the Q&A part of the day. Last month, we started out by taking a look at the brand new National Partnership for Student Success, a multi-organization, multi-part Biden administration initiative that focuses on in-school supports for student learning. If you missed that session, I urge you to watch or listen in while you fold the laundry or do the dishes or whatever, because it was chock full of useful information from experts and from colleagues in the GLR network. We'll continue to keep you apprised of developments and opportunities related to the National Partnership for Student Success, as we see it as one of the most promising initiatives for early school success. We know those in-school supports are crucial for young people. And at the same time, we are huge believers in the proposition that learning and development happen everywhere and all the time. And that to give young people, especially young people who are growing up in challenging circumstances, all the support and opportunity to succeed means paying attention to the environments and the experiences and the supports that young people have outside of school time. And that's where Engage Every Student, the initiative that we're going to be looking at today, comes into play. It's essentially, you could think of it as like the sibling initiative to the National Partnership for Student Success. NPSS focuses on in-school time, and Engage Every Student focuses on out-of-school time. So today, we're here to learn all about Engage Every Student. And once again, we're joined by leading administration officials who are sort of the responsible people for making this initiative work. We are also joined by leaders from the key national partner organizations and from leading practitioners from around the country. We have a great crowd today, too, and we'll hope we'll have a lively set of questions from our colleagues in the field. As Sierra suggested, please put questions in the Q&A box. And if they're very specific questions, folks will try to answer them on the fly while we're in the middle of the webinar. And if there are broader questions that apply to various people, then we'll try to get to them in the Q&A section of the event. So thanks to everybody for joining, participants and listeners. And now let me very briefly introduce the folks who will be part of today's session. As noted, we're going to start with two of the people who are spearheading the Biden administration work on Engage Every Student. Those are first, as was the case last month, we're lucky to be joined by Sheathal Shah, who is Director of Strategic Partnerships in the Office of the Secretary at the U.S. Department of Education. And today, Sheathal will be joined by her brand new colleague, Sheronda Fleming, who has just joined the department as a fellow working specifically on out-of-school time partnerships. Again, in the office of the secretary. Sheronda is exactly the person we need to hear from today, and we're lucky to have her with us. After hearing from the administration's thinking from Sheathal and Sheronda, we'll turn to representatives of the key national partner organizations that are helping to drive this initiative forward. So we have Brodrick Clarke, who's the Vice President of Systems and Program Quality with the National Summer Learning Association. We have Bryan Joffe, who is the Project Director of Education and Youth Development with AASA. That's the Superintendents Association. And we have Bela Spooner, who is the Program Director of Education and Expanded Learning at the Institute for Youth, Education, and Families with the National League of Cities. So after that group, we will be joined by a group of practitioners who are implementing efforts to do just exactly the kind of work that Engage Every Student is all about. We'll hear their experiences and how those efforts can inform what might happen in your community. For this portion, we'll be joined by, there you go, there goes the slide, Jeff Cole, who's the network leader at Beyond School Bells, the statewide after-school initiative in Nebraska. Councilwoman Alyia Gaskins, who serves on the city council in the city of Alexandria, Virginia, just across the Potomac from where I am right now. And that means she's also enjoying a beautiful, crisp fall day. I hope many of you who are listening are also in that situation. Then we'll have Sylvia Lyles, who is the Chief Strategy and Partnerships Officer with our close partners, Foundation, Inc. And finally, Paul Stanton, who is the Superintendent of Washington Elementary School District in Glendale, Arizona. That's a great group, and this is a terrific topic. So let's get started. And let's start with Bela and with Sheathal and Sheronda. Can you guys join us on screen, please? Waiting for them to come. And Sarah, can you take down the slide? And there we go. We're going to put up that slide. Okay. So, Sheathal, yep. Thanks again. Thanks for joining us again. It's nice to see you, as nice always. To see you. So you helped us frame up the previous conversation about the National Partnership for Student Success. And I know you have other duties pressing on you, but I hope we can impose on you for just a couple of minutes to give us sort of the big frame of what Engage Every Student is all about, why the administration is so interested in this, and how you're pursuing this as a priority.
Great. Thank you, John, and nice to see you again. I'm becoming used to our monthly fireside chats, if you will. We'll have to come up with something different for the future, but thank you again to the Grade Level Reading Campaign for inviting us. And, you know, as for those of you who were on last month, and we talked about the complementary nature of MPSS and Engage Every Student, Engage Every Student is really a response to the secretaries and the administration's desire to help ensure that every student has access to a high quality after-school program that is both enriching and also supporting their social, emotional, and mental health needs, right? And we know that happens in school, but also continues on after the bell rings at 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And our community partners are there and have been there. And it's so integral during the pandemic to be there for our students. And paired with the influx of federal relief funds that we know and are encouraging districts and communities to utilize to create access for these programs for all students. And so back in January 2022, almost a year ago, in the Secretary's priority speech, he mentioned that he wants to help ensure that every student does have access to this, and it's a choice for them. And it's not just that they're on a waiting list to enter an after-school program. And so we launched Engage Every Student. And my colleague, Dr. Fleming, who I'm so grateful, and the administration is so grateful she's on board, because we need, as John mentioned, an expert from the field who lived this and helped expand the work across a state and support it, to be in the administration supporting our efforts, working in partnership with those organizations that we know are so key on the ground in the states and in communities. And Sheronda will go into who they are. And the secretary really wanted us to model what we want to see happen more. It's already happening, and you're going to hear from the practitioners that are a part of the second panel, as well as our amazing partners who are on this first part of the webinar, what is happening and why it's important for them to be a part of this collaboration. And I will end with that we have these 2 years to create more access for young people, but we also need to be thinking about how we're utilizing these 2 years, both school districts and community partners working intentionally to continue this work, which you all have already started, but we're hopeful that you're using this funding to create more access. How do we continue and sustain these efforts, right? And so that is yet another reason that we've pulled together this particular group of national organizations to support both school year and summer learning enrichment. And so I'm going to pause there, John. I don't know if you have any more questions, but I do think that it's a good segue into hopefully Dr. Fleming.
That's fantastic. So Sheathal, let me just ask the same question that I asked a few weeks ago, which is about the resources, just so people understand what this initiative from the administration is and isn't. This is really about focusing resources that have already been actually made available, but focusing them on this priority and helping and creating sort of a structure and an encouragement to focus here. Is that right?
That's correct. And I failed to mention that a part of when we're looking at the federal relief funds and what we are seeing through research or data from Future Ed in terms of where districts have allocated their money, it's falling under academic acceleration or addressing learning loss, mental health, and school staffing, right? And so we know that in terms of academic acceleration and the mental health and social emotional learning, that out of school time, these funds that are in the federal relief bucket can be used for out of school time. And so we're encouraging that. And we also are hearing the field, and that it's not as simple as we may make it seem in terms of creating those partnerships and collaborations, which is yet another reason these are the partners you see at the table nationally with us.
Great. I know that you have other duties pressing, but as long as you want to stay on, that's great. And when you have to go, we totally understand. And we are, as you suggested, fortunate to have Sheronda join us. Sheronda, she said how great you were, but she wasn't specific. So even before I ask you any questions and we go to some of the slides that you prepared, I just want to give you a sec to tell people where you came from and what you've done before you got this great assignment at the Department of Education.
Absolutely. And good afternoon to you, John, and everyone that is viewing with us today. Yes, prior to this particular role in the Department of Ed, I served as the director of the North Carolina State After School Network for 5 years. And prior to that, I have served young people in out of school time programs, both in South and North Carolina. And so this is near and dear to my heart. And I've dedicated my academia life as well as my professional life to young people. So very engaged in positive development and everything that we represent with this Engage Every Student initiative.
Fantastic. Well, welcome to the campaign for grade level reading. We are confident that we will be fast and long-standing friends, and we look forward to that. So tell us a little bit more specifically. We know that this is centered on ensuring that students nationwide have not only access to, but are actually engaged in high quality out of school time programs, whether it's after school or summer programs. Talk to us a little about how you see the value add of those kinds of programs. Like, how do you think about why those programs are so important, so we understand your perspective?
Absolutely. Well, we've seen prior to and during the pandemic that after school and summer learning programs across the nation have helped to meet the needs of children and youth. In the midst of the recovery process that we're in, programs are doing more than ever to continue to support students' overall well-being. And according to the extensive research on the out of school time field and positive youth development, we know that students who are regularly participating in high quality after school and summer learning programs have a wide range of positive outcomes. We're seeing that they have gains in self-control, confidence, and social skills as they build relationships with their peers and also with caring adults. We also see that they make academic gains in all subjects, but especially in reading and math. And additionally, students that attend programs regularly improve their school day attendance and ultimately have higher graduation rates. And we know that the current generation of youth that we are engaging in programs are ultimately our future workforce. And so through out of school time programs, they have opportunities to explore a range of career paths and gain applicable work skills. And so the immense value of our programs is there's nothing that measures up against it.
All right. Well, see if you can control your enthusiasm. I love that. I love that. Excellent. Excellent. How can people who are, well, let me back up one thing. Is what's the essence of this initiative? If this big idea, I think probably all of us, like, we wouldn't be on this session if we didn't believe in this idea. We're all enthusiasts. We may not be as knowledgeable or as enthusiastic as you, but we're all enthusiasts. But tell me what the essence of this initiative, Engage Every Student, really is. What's the heart of the matter?
Absolutely. Well, my goal and the goal of everyone today is to get all of you to be as enthusiastic about Engage Every Student as we are. But as Sheathal mentioned, the initiative is a call to action to ensure that students nationwide have access to high quality programs, specifically after school and summer learning programs. And so to achieve that nationwide, partnerships between school districts, state agencies, cities, and programs are key. And so we need to address this emphasis on unmet demand. So we know that there are approximately 25 million children nationwide that are not engaged in programs due to a range of barriers, whether it be the lack of a program in their community, the cost of a program, lack of transportation, et cetera. And of that 25 million, we know that 13.3 million of those students are children from low-income families. And so with Engage Every Student, the focus is on ensuring that all students, including that 13.3 million from low-income families and the ultimate 25 million children nationwide, have access to these programs. So in support of this effort, we recognize that the barriers exist. And so our goal is to provide a range of technical assistance, opportunities, and resources to help address those barriers. Also, through the initiative, we will work with our partners to recognize and spotlight examples of successful partnerships and programs nationwide. And ultimately, we know that after-school and summer learning programs work. The research proves that time and time again. And so we will continue to spread awareness about the benefits of these programs for our nation's children and families as well through the initiative.
So folks who are listening because they're interested. And I'm curious how people get more engaged, get more information about the opportunities and services that the Engage Every Student initiative is making.
So we want to engage every student and engage every viewer as well, John. And so first and foremost, we invite you to visit our website, engageeverystudent.org. And you can join us in one of two ways. Number one is by making a pledge. And so in doing this, you are stating that you are leveraging or working to leverage funding, whether it be ARP ESSER funds, local fiscal recovery funds, state funds, philanthropic, any range of funds to expand access to high quality after school and summer programs for students within your state, within your city, within your district, et cetera. And so if you're leveraging funds to increase access for students, we want to know about it. And that's the way that you communicate that to us, by making a pledge. And then secondly, we invite you to join us by becoming an ally. So as an ally, you're collaborating with us in this effort to ensure that every child nationwide that who wants to participate in an after-school or summer learning program has an opportunity to do so. And with our allies, you will receive updates regarding the initiative through our newsletter that we'll be disseminating. You'll be invited to participate in quarterly meetings and webinars that we're going to offer on a range of topics. And then you'll also have an opportunity to share information with us as we proceed throughout the next 2 years. And so we invite you all to join us as a pledge or as an ally.
That sounds great. Fantastic. You've got a great launch as a friend of the Campaign for Grade Level Reading. And I hope you will stick around, because I'm guessing you will have reactions that we'll want to get to what other people say, and folks are going to have questions for you. But that was a terrific overview. Really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John.
And with that overview that we got from Sheathal and Sheronda, let's bring in our next set of guests. So as it became clear in this session already, this effort is not actually just the administration. This is something the administration is doing in partnership with some key national allies. And specifically, those are people who happen to be great allies of the Campaign for Grade Level Reading as well. We're fortunate to have some of those key partners with us today. So we got Brodrick on, yeah, you're on screen. And we got Bryan and Bela, are you on screen? Yes, there you are. Okay, everybody's on. Thanks so much. Let's start with this for each of you. I'm curious why each of your organizations decided to become so deeply involved with the Engage Every Student initiative. Bryan, why don't you lead us? And just to remind folks, the little thing says so, but Bryan's with AASA, which is Superintendents Association. And it's I kind of want to push you on this a little bit, because it's a little surprising to see the superintendents being a key partner in an out-of-school initiative. So tell us why this is so important to AASA.
Sure. Thank you, John. As he said, I'm Bryan Joffe from AASA, the School Superintendents Association. I'm really pleased to be with you all today. Part of the reason we're engaged in this initiative is the great folks we just heard from, Sheathal and Sheronda, and that we have a Department of Education that's really committed to young people learning and thriving in school and out of school. We all know there's been a pandemic and there's been so much disruption for young people. And we're in a moment of recovery where we need to wrap our arms around young people, services, supports, learning recovery. But for our organization, the School Superintendents Association, we're a membership group. We have about 10,000 superintendent members across the country. And those folks are held accountable for a wide range of measures, things like grade level reading, for example, high school graduation rates. They're held accountable for attendance. They have all these wonderful strategic plans around parent and family engagement, around equity. These are their goals that they've put forward, that they've said to their community that they are going to be held accountable for with their boards. And we can't do that. We couldn't do it before, but we certainly can't do it now without the out of school time partners, without our cities, without summer learning, without the after school folks, without weekends and all the things we learned, or some people learned during the pandemic, that we needed to do for kids are even in more stark contrast now. So for schools, it's really a way to help meet those goals that we've set out. We're not going to get to grade level reading and grade attendance and high school graduation and young people learning and thriving without them having opportunities, not just for 180 days during the school year, but after school, great enrichment opportunities during the summer that get them excited about learning, those out of school time opportunities during the year that get them engaged and wanting to go back to the classroom to apply what they've learned in their great after school program. So for our organization, it's a moment that we need to meet the needs of young people, and we can't do it without these partners. And so we're so proud to be part of Engage Every Student with some of the other organizations that you'll hear from today.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Brian. We're going to be right back to you. Bela, you're part of the killer bees here. All of you, we got Brian, we got Brodrick, we got Bela. National League of Cities. Why is this a big deal for National League of Cities?
Thanks, John. Yeah, never been called a killer bee. Like it. Great to be with you, and great to see so many people on this call. So yes, I'm with the National League of Cities, and we are a membership organization for city leaders, for cities, city managers, mayors, city council members, city managers, and cities as a whole. And the National League of Cities has been deeply committed for over 2 decades to leveraging those members, city government, to support young people. We always say it takes a village, right? And yet so much of the pressure and expectation typically is fallen upon schools to do everything for our kids, right? But cities care about the success of their communities, and mayors understand the power of education for young people. Kids and families live in cities, towns, and villages. And there's an important role that city leaders play. So at NLC, we believe, and we have seen municipal leaders play a critical role in creating programs and services for children and youth, investing in city-run programs, or providing grants to community-based organizations, or building partnerships with schools to ensure kids have access to high-quality after-school and summer programs. We've done a ton of work over almost 2 decades, actually, at the National League of Cities to help cities think about citywide approaches to make sure all kids in all neighborhoods and all corners of the community, those who need it even more than others, have access to programs. So this initiative of Engage Every Student is really a way of doing the work we've always done city by city or in smaller cohorts, but taking it on an even larger national scale with our partners and the Department of Education to really encourage and recognize cities for the work that they've been doing, and to encourage more cities to get engaged and to understand that they have a role to play, and that quality after school and summer program experiences are vital for the success of young people and for the recovery of their communities.
So I'm coming to you. Don't go away, Brodrick. I'm coming to you in just a hot second. But I'm so impressed by the partnership, the notion that we have the superintendents and city leaders, whatever offices they happen to occupy, both as key partners in this initiative. Do we see that kind of partnership also playing out at a local level, where a superintendent in a town is really partnered with a mayor or with the council or whatever the structure is in that community to create opportunities for young people to learn, grow, have fun, explore new things in out of school time?
Yeah, I mean, I'm literally sitting in a meeting here with the mayor's education advisors of the 75 largest cities in the country, stepped out to speak with you all. And we just had a conversation, and we're going to actually have a panel on Engage Every Student tomorrow. But absolutely, I mean, we want to see more of those examples, right? But we had a ton of examples where cities were talking about how their mayors and superintendents are sitting down every week or every month to talk about how they can work together to support kids. Right. And so now we're in this moment where both cities and school districts have these additional resources from the American Rescue Plan. And we want to foster more conversations amongst them. And I'm so pleased to be able to work closely with Bryan for us to bring our forces together to really encourage more of those city superintendents, city school district partnerships.
Yeah, I want to build on that. I mean, we don't want to oversell our current success, but there absolutely are places where that's happening and happening really well. Our charge, I think, as part of Engage Every Student is to replicate and scale up those models where cities and school districts are working hand in hand. When you think about what it takes to run great out of school time programs, though, there's a few things that always come up, right? There's space, there's transportation, and there's staffing. And cities and schools each have those and can share, right? So cities have space, school buildings have space, schools obviously do their own transportation, but in cities for older kids, there are other transportation options. So we saw in Louisville, for example, that every high school student got a city bus pass so they could get to out of school programming, because that was important that the city supported that idea that we need our students to get from here to there so they can participate in these great programs. We've got places that are braiding funding and thinking about how they're staffing and resource sharing to ensure that the same children, obviously, that live in the city and go to the school district are really being supported in a cohesive and aligned way where we can share those ideas around space, transportation, staffing, and resources. And so the more we can share the message that that is happening, that it's possible and it's working, I think the more we'll see those strategies replicated elsewhere.
It's fantastic. So put a pin in what you just said, because I want to come back to that, but I can't leave Brodrick out in the cold for too much longer.
Well,
now,
Brodrick knows Louisville well, so he can step in on that
too. Now, Brodrick, it's no newsflash that the National Summer Learning Association would be enthusiastic about an out of school time initiative from the administration, unlike maybe NLC and AASA, where the fit is not as obvious. Sure. But can you tell us why you all are so excited about this particular initiative?
Absolutely, John. I'm just grateful to be here. I know that a couple of us had a chance to see each other in person the other day, so makes it feel better being here electronically with each other again. So appreciate that. But this initiative is important to us without a doubt. For 25 years, we've been shining a light on summer and trying to convince folks about the promise that exists within that time period, and trying to get folks to reimagine what that time can look like, particularly from summer school versus what summer learning truly embodies. And so, we really just want to be in this moment. I've heard it said before, never let a good crisis go to waste. We have this situation. We were, if you'd asked us 4 years ago, what if we locked everything down for 2 years and then came back on the back end? What opportunities would that afford us? And, prior to all this, just asking somebody to press *6 to unmute themselves was a big deal. And now folks are, leveraging technology in interesting, meaningful ways. They're being creative. One of our 4 I's that we talk about when we talk about, our role in the summer space is this need to innovate. Now we have a very, very strong need to innovate. I love the name of the initiative, Engage Every Student, right? It's not enroll every student. It's not about more seats. It's about making sure that when the young people do get to us, that they're met by staff people that have the knowledge, the skill, the competencies to serve them at a really high level. If there were any barriers to access, now they're a resource. It makes me think about Jim Collins, Good to Great for the social sectors, right? We have an economic engine now that's in place. Let's rev that. But we also know that, it may not run so well in 2 years. And so there's an expiration date, on this. And so it's important for us to leverage it right now in this moment to eliminate those barriers that, for some of us have been beating our heads against the wall around barriers for a long time. And so let's leverage this unprecedented investment. The eye and spotlight is on summer out of school time in ways that it has not been. And so this is an important inflection point. I mean, I guess folks will be reading about this time, in youth development class 10 years from now.
Well, Brodrick, that's such a good comment. It takes me to this thought that I was thinking about when Bela and Bryan were talking about, which is, there are more resources. We should have more programs. More kids should have access. All these things, obvious, right? And good. But what does actual success look like? That's a success that a city can experience, that a community can experience, that parents and kids, it's not just research that shows things are somehow better a little bit, but that it feels different. It's palpably different. I'm curious for all of you who are experts in this, what you think it feels like and looks like to really knock it out of the park on this kind of work. Brodrick, let's start with you.
Sure. I mean, we have 80 examples that we've been awarding, our summer learning award every year. So you walk into any one of those programs, and while they might look and seem very different in terms of whatever medium or whatever they're engaging in, there's a secret sauce when you walk in. Simple stuff. People are smiling. People are likely happy to be around each other. There's a vibe that you can see evidence of youth voice and choice the moment that you walk in. Young people are responding, not because they're in compliance mode, but they feel a strong sense of connection and commitment to that community. But that doesn't happen by accident. That's like skilled facilitators creating that platform for that to emerge. And so, at the end of the day, just like our partners at the Weicker Center and the Forum for Youth Investment, we want to keep young people safe first and foremost. Support them to no end, give them incredible opportunities to interact and engage at all levels, and then plan what they do what they do, and then reflect on what they've done as a result. But I also recognize and been in this business long enough to know that while, that's certainly out there in the literature, and, the best youth development rock stars out there do that all day, every day, that we need to support staff and to be able to fully embrace what that is, and to know that they have a voice within that too, and they can also let their superpower and youth development shine by, embracing these methodologies that we know are tried and true. Let's keep our young people safe. We know they're going to thrive when they feel safe and supported and put in situations to learn and lead.
I love that. Bela, I'm going to bounce back to you on that. What does it look like? What does it feel like? Not in an academic research paper, but in a community when young people are in this kind of situation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it goes back to the word engage, right? And it's about young people being active. It's about, young people knowing that there's a place for them to go after school. It's about peer networks being formed, kind of getting back to that social space before COVID really took that away from them. It's about young people being engaged in civic life and civic government. We have tons of mayors' youth councils and service learning projects. And, it's about really creating a pathway to our workforce, just to kind of take it to a different topic, but certainly one that's very relevant to our city leaders, really thinking about all of the skills and, opportunities to expose young people to new careers, by being engaged in quality after school and summer programs, giving them that confidence. I think it looks like high active participation, and it looks like investment. I'll say that from my perspective. It looks like cities really stepping up and talking about young people and having those partnership conversations with their school districts, bringing the community to the table, bringing young people to the table, talking about what they want to do. And putting some dollars there, and we've seen that. We've really seen that. We have a map that we just jointly produced with the After School Alliance that shows the number of cities that we've been able to collect information on so far that have invested their American Rescue Plan dollars in to support young people. And I just released a report a few weeks ago on kind of a bigger number of cities that have invested in young people broadly with their ARP dollars. I think that's what it looks like. It's like putting where your mouth is, and really making sure that young people have a place to go to do something really productive and fun that they're proud of and can take ownership of.
Awesome. So for each of you, I'll come back to you, Bryan, to start. What's your call to action? What are you asking your constituents, your stakeholders to do specifically? And I know the folks who are listening all of whom live and work and advocate for kids in community, they want to know, what does that look like? Where's their heat and where's their action and attention and energy and resources? So for the superintendents, what's the call to action? What are you hoping to see happen?
Yeah, well, I think, in line with the great comments you asked at the beginning, why we might want to be engaged and involved in this, how could we not want to be engaged with this great group of leaders and folks that are on the call today? I think and Brodrick mentioned a crisis opportunity. I think we have to look at the flip side of it as well, though. We've got to demonstrate the value of these investments. It's incumbent upon those of us in this field, now that there have been, $20 billion or so made available for after school and summer programs in the American Rescue Plan. We've got to show that investment pays huge dividends, so that when we're advocating, when we're communicating, when we're showing the research that we all have and have behind us, but we've got to take this investment and make it sing as well. So for our call to action, it's for superintendents to find the partners in their community to ensure that they're braiding funding, sharing space, thinking about transportation, but really thinking about high quality opportunities for every low income child in their community and every child in their community as well, but specifically focused on those low income children. So they've got to go out and they've got to build the partnerships. They've got to expand the ones that they have that are working well. They've got to find ways to scale up what's working. And we've got to find ways to invest the dollars that we've been given. I've worked at ASA since 2009. And let me tell you that just about every year, our governing board and our executive committee has talked about how much we need funding, how much we need investment, how much schools are underfunded and we don't have the staff we need, and Title I and IDA, nothing's fully funded the way we'd like. Well, here's an opportunity where funding came in, and I know it came in at a difficult time. There are supply chain issues. I know there are staffing issues, and the whole economy, is not at their disposal. But I will say they've got the funding that they've asked for a long time, and now it's incumbent upon all of us in this field working on behalf of young people to show that when you invest in young people, it works. And we've got to show the outcomes and partnerships and everything we can do for young people with this funding. So that's our call to action, is to make sure that we're soundly, strategically, with alignment and intentionality, investing these dollars in great programs that provide great opportunities for every low-income young person.
Wow, fabulous. Brodrick, what are you guys calling out to your members to do? What are you asking them to do?
Two things really quick. One, I would say is let's scale up right. These huge investments, folks have to figure out how to go from running a really small operation, 25, 50, 100 kids, to expanding that now with all of these additional resources there. And if we're going to scale up right. Let's scale up right. We don't want to do it the wrong way. We don't want to grow too fast, too soon, and not and have our services be compromised as a result. Want folks to continue to keep beating the quality drum. Quality matters. I say quality, you say matters. Quality matters, right? I'll continue to keep beating that drum. Low quality programs do not move the needle with respect to youth outcomes. There's enough research out there to support that. And so it just ramps up the sense of urgency that if we're gonna expand, we're gonna provide more spots, we're gonna serve more young people, that we need to carve out a bit of that investment to make sure that staff are equipped with the skills and competencies to do that well. Call to action for parents, expect quality, demand quality. And we usually tell practitioners summer starts in September from a planning standpoint, but I'll tell families summer starts in September from a planning standpoint. Right? Go to discoversummer.org, type in your address and your information and find out what programs are around you. Start asking those questions now. Try to identify what your young people's needs, wants, and desires and interests are, and match them up with programs that provide those services, opportunities, and supports. Let's all begin the planning process now, both practitioners and families, for summer.
It's awesome. I want to come back to this family issue because I know there's some questions being raised about that in the chat box. Bela, for you, what's your call to action for National League of Cities, and how can people who are listening to this call intersect with people who you are encouraging to focus on this initiative?
Yeah, thanks. Call to action to our members through this initiative will be to really understand what resources they have at their disposal and what the opportunity is for them to make those investments in youth, right? We can't tell cities what to do, but I'm not a lobbyist. But we certainly can point out the success stories and point out where it's happening. And that's what we've done with the map. And hopefully someone put that in the chat. The call to action is also to be able to have those conversations at the local level. Talk to your superintendents, talk to your school district, talk to the young people, and talk to your CBOs, right? I feel like and I know most of the folks on the call are probably based in, community-based organizations. And so that's where so much expertise is. And so, we don't want schools to kind of create something out of the blue that just because they have this money. We want them to be able to partner with their community-based organizations that have the relationships with the families, with the kids, and have the expertise, share the dollars in that direction. We want cities to do the same. We want conversations happening at the local level for folks to really understand where the needs are and how to target those dollars. Cities have a lot less money, right, in American Rescue Plan than the school districts do, but how can we work together and figure out how to plug those holes and leverage the resources that Bryan was talking about? Cities have community centers, maybe they have access and can help with bus passes, and schools have expertise and they have space and curriculum. And CBOs have a lot too. So I think the call to action is, let's put a focus on our young people, put a focus on this recovery, understand what it takes. Let's all lean in and let's have some targeted intentional conversations about what's needed and what resources we all have as a collective to be able to fill those gaps.
Fantastic. Thank you to the Killer Bees. That was some great panel. And please stay with us because we're going to have some questions and answers, and I'd love to hear your reactions to some things. And now let's have our last group, our practitioners, join us on screen. So that's Paul and Alyia and Sylvia and Jeff. Thanks so much. Thank you, Sierra, for doing such a good job on all this. So just a reminder to people who's who, because it's been a few minutes since we introduced folks. Paul's the superintendent of schools in Glendale, Arizona. Yeah. Councilwoman Gaskins is a member of the city council in Alexandria, Virginia. Right across the river, as I said. And Jeff leads the state after school network in Nebraska. Sylvia is a close friend of the campaign who spearheads strategy and partnerships for Foundations, Inc., also a close partner of the campaign. Welcome to all of you. For each of you, I'm curious, and folks will notice there's some commonality. We just talked about NLC in some cities, and we have Councilwoman Gaskins. We just talked about superintendents, and lo and behold, we have a superintendent with us, Paul. So we're going to now hear from people who are actually doing this work, what that feels like, and what this opportunity feels like. So I'm curious, at a closer to the ground level, what excites you about the Engage Every Student initiative? Why is this initiative timely and necessary? Paul, I'll kick it to you to start.
Sure, John. Thanks for the question. So what excites me, as you heard from a lot of your panelists earlier, is that we have a chance to engage with our communities. We have a chance to use these funds, use the term braid our funds, because we have those, to actually get our teams together. You talked about your mayors, your community partners, whether it's faith-based or business-based. So what excites me about it is, in a time of trying to recover from a pandemic, we've been provided resources that we can work with our local communities, local partners to actually meet the needs of the child, both, as you all said earlier, academically, social, emotionally, even in engaging activities. What excites me about it is the fact that at the right time came opportunities with people, opportunities with talent, opportunities with dollars, and doing that work now gives us a chance to give our kids from, as you guys mentioned, impoverished areas, a chance to gain access. That was a word I heard over and over again: gain access before school, during school, summertime, and work together with our local partners to make a difference in our communities.
Awesome. Councilwoman Gaskins, Alyia, thanks for joining us today. And tell me what's getting you excited about this new Biden administration initiative.
Thank you, John. Appreciate the question and glad to be with everyone today. You know, when I think about this moment and this opportunity, I'm reminded of some of the comments earlier about the profound impact that COVID-19 has had on our communities, and particularly our young people. And the fact that for them, you know, losing access to school and recreational opportunities and time with friends, it wasn't just inconvenient, but it was traumatic. And we're hearing from our young people that they feel isolated, they feel disconnected, they are looking for ways to re-engage. And so for me, what is exciting is this is about that. This is about pulling together resources to be able to accelerate and invest in opportunities for them. I know you called me a practitioner, but I'm not the one who's on the ground.
Yeah, fair.
And so it's also an exciting time because I get to find ways to push resources to the great folks in our community, our nonprofits, our schools, our partners who are really trying to shape and reimagine how do they create programs that build skills, but also that create spaces for young people to re-engage with their peers, to be surrounded by caring adults, to be connected to job opportunities. So it's a lot of exciting time for connection, and that's something that gets me excited.
Well, that's really interesting because I think that for the campaign, that kind of collaboration that you've just described is essential. You know, we've tried a million single shot solutions to everything. And what we realize, it's not a single shot, it's everything and everybody all at the same time. So if this initiative becomes a sort of an occasion for people to work together across different sectors and across different government institutions, that alone could be a huge benefit. So I want to come back to you about that. Jeff, tell us a little bit about why this is exciting to you in Nebraska.
Yeah, great. And again, thanks for the opportunity to be on the panel, and completely agree with the councilwoman and you, John. This is a silver buckshot moment. You know, this is an opportunity to really pull a lot of people together who've been thinking about the importance of after school, but from different areas. And for me, I'm really excited about the opportunity to bring urban and rural communities together in a national effort and national leadership, really elevating the importance of out of school time learning in a way that, you know, oftentimes our rural communities are forgotten in some of these discussions about the larger city initiatives and, you know, what's going on in the needs of urban communities, but those needs are nationwide. And the great thing about Engage Every Student is that it looks to after school programs across the country. And we see it as an opportunity to leverage some of the work that we're doing in both urban and rural communities in Nebraska, bring in some private sector partners, bring in some non-traditional partners into that, you know, community-wide challenge that we all face in providing, you know, engaging, stimulating learning experiences for all our youth. So we love the national leadership, we love the national frame, but it allows us to be really hyper local in the work that we do. And, you know, we're going to be doing a statewide marketing campaign and really trying to take advantage of the next 2 years to set a new normal in Nebraska where, you know, we expect every child to have these great opportunities. So really appreciate the framing that the Engage Every Student represents.
Fantastic. Paul, let me jump back to you for 1 sec. Could you say for people who are not familiar with Glendale, Arizona, a little bit what Glendale is like, where it is, and what's the nature of your district?
Yeah, sure, you bet, John. So we're on the border of Phoenix, Glendale, and we're about 20,000 students. We're about 65 languages, and we're about 93% free and reduced lunch.
Wow.
So I've got about 3,000 employees. And we, as I mentioned earlier, we can talk later about so many of the partners because we couldn't do it alone. Is this what you're talking about today and what we're doing on the local ground? So again, we're the largest elementary school district in the state of Arizona.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's that picture of us, the snapshot.
Perfect. Very helpful. So Sylvia, I'm coming to you now. You've been watching this kind of stuff for a long time and you know a whole lot about it. And I am just curious what you're thinking about Engage Every Student as an administration initiative, but also sort of the energy and the ideas that you're hearing in today's conversation.
Yeah, so first of all, ditto to the councilwoman's, Paul and Jeff's comments about, why now? Why is this timely? I think everything that they said, I totally agree. One of the things I would like to add to that is an opportunity for educators who are in the school during the day. They are in the school during the day. They may need a little help. They may need a little help as they look to close the learning gap with students. And what better place to get that? Learning happens everywhere. It happens in summer school, after school, as well as right there in a family at dinner time. So to have the partners to come together to think about ways and strategies and practices that they could pull together to help to address what the educators are telling us they need, what the parents are telling us what they need, as well as the students, to be able to really get. So you asked John, what am I hearing? What I'm hearing is that parents want to be engaged. They have a lot of questions, but they also don't always know what questions to ask. So when we talk about community, we're talking about the entire community. We're talking about the educators who work with the students every day, as well as the parents, as well as the students. So I think this gives us an opportunity to really drill down and across the entire community to be able to talk about and think about the best practices that will move education and academics forward, as well as the social, emotional, and health and all that other stuff that goes with that.
That's great. So Alyia, I'm bounce back to you. You talked about some of this partnership. Let's get granular, like make it really specific and really real. Try to draw a little picture for people who don't live in Alexandria, Virginia, of what you all are trying to do. And I'm also curious, as you talk about that, how you're using now this Engage Every Student initiative to catapult, to propel your work forward.
Sure. So in Alexandria, we are fortunate to have something called the Youth Support Network. And the Youth Support Network is run by Act for Alexandria, which is our community foundation. It came together in, I think, 2020 and has now over 80 different organizations. That includes nonprofit providers and community-based organizations. It includes other foundations, employers, businesses, as well as Alexandria City Public Schools. And so they had come together with the focus on how do we think about out of school time? How do we think about opportunities for young people and address challenges like our graduation rates, attendance, career and college pipelines. So we were already meeting. I think what is unique and exciting about this opportunity is that as a council, we've been able to provide the support network with some funds to be able to do a landscape analysis, to really look at, okay, we say we have programs for young people. We say we have opportunities, but do we have the right ones? Where are they located? Who's being served? What needs are being met? We recognize out of school time programs often provide connections to food, to addressing other issues that families may be dealing with, that transportation, I think, was talked about earlier, wraparound supports for families. And so they are coming together, and as part of this study, they will create a program locator so that it makes it really easy for families and educators and others in our community to understand what's available. They're also coming together to think about, what do our providers need? It takes a lot to run these programs, and it's not just monetary resources, but they also need professional development. They need support for their own mental health and well-being. And so how do we think about some of those cross-training and citywide opportunities for them? They're coming together to use this opportunity to also think about, what does it mean to have a quality program? I think that's been a big piece, and I think Brodrick raised that earlier, but what are the quality standards for Alexandria? And how do we begin to put together some benchmarks so that we can use that and create tools for all of our programs? And then lastly, they're leveraging this moment and the resources we're able to provide to really think about opportunities for data sharing. I think Sylvia said learning happens everywhere. We want to understand where our young people are going, what they're engaged in, what are the different things they're exposed to, and how do we share that information so that when you go from one program to the next, or when you go from elementary to middle to high school, that we have sort of a continuum to wrap around our young people and be able to report progress, but also intervene early and often.
Wow. Okay. That was outstanding. That was just great. Thank you so much. Paul, I wonder how that sounds to you. Like here you are sitting running the institution, and what Alyia just described is a very engaged group of organizations and individuals who are trying to understand very well what's happening, broadly speaking, for young people. How does a school district interact with that? What does that look like?
Well, it sounds like, Alyia, you have a system already set up, so that's fantastic. In our neck of the woods, we do a lot of this through meeting with our cities and towns, actually talking to Glendale and Phoenix. We do that with a ton of partners, as you heard Alyia talk about, working with our faith-based, business-based, business partners that are interested in working with our school district. We do that with sharing our data, like you heard Alyia talk about. So we share our data with folks, not just, as I mentioned to you before, about our makeup of our school district, but how are we doing? And then you do the ask, John. When you have a situation where you find gaps in what you have need for, you talk to your partners about what those gaps are, and then you work with them on, can you help fill those gaps? Because as you heard the comment made earlier, we're talking about wraparound. We are trying to help kids social, emotionally, academically, physically. And so when we find a gap, we go out there and try to find a partner who can help us out, do that kind of work, and then grow our own. The other part, what Alyia was talking about, these opportunities also give your staff and other folks opportunities to actually grow themselves, become better at their skills. So these before and after school opportunities in the summertime are actually a great chance for us to grow our own. So we partner with our universities, for example, in this opportunity as well. So it's just incredible about web of partnerships. When you find a need, you have to be willing to talk to folks like you just heard Alyia talk about, and then you got to do the ask and find somebody who can help fill it. And these opportunities, funds, as well as folks are really the way we can do that.
So I want to press all four of you on this question that we were talking about with the previous panel, which is, look, I've done this work for a long time. I know how hard it is. All these partnerships you have to manage, all these things you got to go, and you want to grow your programs, just as Jeff said, and Brodrick said, you want to grow them, but you don't want to go crazy and lose your quality and so forth. And I just keep struggling with this question of what does success look like, and how do people experience that success in such a way that they say, oh, right, this is what we need to be doing for kids. And they're really fully committed. It's not just another thing that we try for a few years. And then, we had all the meetings, we spent all the money, we had more people involved in the programs. And yet to a casual observer, it seems like not that much changed. And each of you and everybody on this session has described, oh, we have a real moment of opportunity for change. And I keep wondering, and it's not just in this area, how do we create change that people experience enough that they get so enthused about that they're never going to let it go? Like it just becomes part of the norm. Jeff, you've been in this game for a while. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, I appreciate the question and your enthusiasm. It feels like you've gotten some of Sheronda's energy there, John. So super, yeah. I mean, for me, it's the speed with which the kids run into the program when it first opens its doors, and the number of tears they cry when their grandparent picks them up early. If we could capture that, so it's really about the engagement. And I do, going back to one of Brodrick's earlier comments, I think this is a moonshot opportunity for us to innovate around the kinds of exciting, engaging, inspiring programming that kids really desperately need, and we don't really as a society do a good job providing them. So I think this is an opportunity for us to innovate, as a couple of people mentioned. Talk to your youth. What kind of programs do they want? Engage youth in developing the kind of programs that pop, the kind of inspiring experiences, and then figure out creative ways to capture that. I don't think filling out bubble sheets is the best way to capture engagement. So let's figure out some creative ways to document the engagement. And just one additional point for us, we really see the value in sustaining this work, and nobody sustains poor quality programs that don't engage young people. So we want to raise the bar in engagement as a strategy for long-term sustainability, so that young people and their parents, I love the questions about family involvement, we can do that with this program. They demand that these programs continue. They don't have to be super expensive, but they can be continued with local resources that are creatively braided and blended together with other resources in communities. So I think it's an opportunity for us really to step up our game and to deliver on the promise of after school to engage every student.
Alyia, I want to come to you with this question of what does success look like so that people in Alexandria never want to let this go, and people in Arlington are looking over your fence and saying, wait, that's good. How do we do that? What does that look like? And what does that feel like? What is that success?
Yes, I love the way you frame that, because you know we want to set the bar.
I know you do.
Yes. So I guess a few things come to mind for me, and I want to pick up on something Jeff said about really listening to our young people, because my hope would be that any programs we're designing, that this is an opportunity to really center their voices and their perspectives, so that we're not just creating, programs that they're just stuck choosing from, but these are the programs that they co-created and designed and want to go to, because then I think that's how we sustain, and I think that's how we grow and scale good programs that young people want to be a part of. When I think about success, first I think about it from our parents and what does that look like. I will never forget when I was campaigning, there was a mom who told me that she felt her children always miss out on the great opportunities, because there's like a small window where you're holding your cell phone, waiting online or trying to figure out how to register. And it's so difficult because as soon as those programs fill, there isn't another opportunity, or there's an opportunity that you're like, that's all that was left. And I feel like no parent should have to feel that. You should feel like I am choosing the best opportunity. And if I'm working 2-3 jobs, or I don't have the opportunity to just sit in front of a computer and wait for the program to open, I'm still going to get something great. So I feel like if people had a system where they didn't have those barriers, they would be invested in this and want to keep contributing. And then for our young people, I think success looks like, and Jeff, you said this, we got to figure out better ways to capture this, but I am really struck by how little we talk about joy and just pure happiness that children experience when they're doing something they love, that sense of wonder. I see that in my 2-year-old now, and I just wish I could bottle it and capture that. And I think that if we can create programs where the joy is so obvious as you step in, but while you're there, and even after you leave, you want to keep coming back and asking those questions, I think that to me is success. Success is creating joyful programming.
Fantastic. Paul, from your perch, what does success look like? Do you see, what are you looking for? A greater attendance, greater engagement, better test scores? What makes you say this is really working?
Well, first off, you heard about the joy at the end there. I want to give Alyia, that's where I was going to, because you got to start out with a program where curiosity and wonder, you just hook them, and that you have it right there. So you offer programs that have a student focus, student engagement to the point where this is the only place they want to be. Having quality educators, quality paraprofessionals, quality heard earlier is also really important, so that our folks that are doing this work after school and before school are connected to what's happening during school as well. Project-based, we've been blessed to have a great STEM and STEAM program. And so when you hook them with that project-based learning and they are engaged and that you feel like it's everything they've ever wanted, and they can come back and tell their friends during the day that I got something different than you got. It's that incredible energy and vibe that's like, I got something special going on here, and that's what we got. But having quality people working with our wonderful and beautiful students, and then back to, I'll close with Alyia, that curiosity and wonder, that you tap into that, you get them interested by hooking them, and then they just grow and grow. By the way, then, John, you can also get the academics. So notice the work that you do to build them up. Maslow wasn't wrong, so meeting the social and behavioral and safe, but then you got that, then you'll get those academics.
It's refreshing to hear somebody who runs a school system say exactly that. Thank you, Paul. Sylvia, I want to come to you for some reflections, and then Emily, I'm interested in what kind of questions have been coming in that we could apply to everybody, and also we'll invite the killer bees to return with Sheronda.
So, John, you got to stop coming to me last, because the other speakers take all my great ideas.
No, there's enough joy for everybody, Sylvia.
I agree with absolutely everything they have said. Just adding to that, just want to put on the table that, sometimes funders, especially our national funders, and Paul spoke to it about the academics, they want to know, how our students, they're having fun, they have great joy, but what's happening with the academics. And so I really do believe that, in my experience working with out of school time programs, that we have to be positioned to be able to tell the story, the complete story, the storytelling, which I've learned is really something that you have to be good at doing. You have to be able to tell that story about what actually happened from the time that they entered into the after school program, and take it back to the classroom, what they learn in terms of being able to just communicate with each other, or to engage in activities that they would have never engaged in if it was not for the after school program, what those experiences mean to those students, and how it resonates as they move into the classroom with their peers and working with adults and educators, how it all helps to form them as the whole person when they go back into the school. I think learning to tell, being able to tell that story from A to B, that experience from A to B, is very important to the funders. And I just think everything that you have said is just really important to assess and evaluate the quality of the program moving forward.
Yeah, it's my thought. I love all these comments. My thought is that sometimes we present these opportunities and ideas like they're vaccines, and if you participate in one of these programs, or a bunch of kids participate, nothing bad will ever happen again. It's an unrealistic expectation, right? Bad things happen all the time to all kinds of kids in all kinds of circumstances. It's really a measure of how many good things happen to lots of kids. But I do say, I think we sometimes all fall prey to thinking, we're presenting this, it's all going to be perfect if we just do this thing. It's never all going to be perfect. It's still life. It's still messy. They're still kids. So finding the way, to your point, Sylvia, to tell a story about how this is creating opportunity and growth and learning and success and full human development for kids, that's a hard challenge to do that. I think everybody on this session knows that essential truth. And I think we're all individually and collectively not great at conveying that to people who are skeptical, who wonder where are resources going and so forth. So I think that's a sectoral challenge for all of us. And we revert to test scores or crime statistics or, all those kind of things. And it's unhelpful. Okay.
John,
yes.
if I just wanted to add one point.
Please.
Just the story, I think part of it is also telling why those investments are so critical over time. And so I'm thinking about the fact that right now, as a council, to fund some of the work that we're doing with the Youth Support Network, we're using ARPA funds. When our ARPA funds go away, I have to be able to make the case to my colleagues and to others when we're dealing with many, many different priorities, that those funds need to be a continued part of our budget. And I think the story that explains the trajectory that if it's a kid in a program, what has been started and how much more investment is needed to keep up with all the things that we've been able to invest in and support moving forward. And so I think that becomes so critical so that these don't just become one budget thing that we get excited about, but it's year after year after year. It's councils long after I'm gone and other people are in these positions to continue funding and supporting this work.
Well, I expect by then you're going to be in a much bigger position because you're awesome. So I can't wait to see what happens. Maybe you'll be deciding where all the money goes. So Brodrick and Bela and Bryan and Sheronda, I hope you can rejoin us on screen now. And Emily, can you pop in because you've been watching the question and answer box, and I'm curious. You sent me a note about parental engagement. I'm curious what's popping to the top.
Well, I mean, the question is really not, and I was going to start somewhere else, but we'll start there. And thank you to our great panelists who are answering some of these questions. But I do think this was a good one that Sheronda already provided an answer to, which is basically essentially, how can after school programs, this is from Martha Montufar, that, how can after school programs, if we're thinking about this, make sure that they're engaging parents and making sure parents understand how important after school is for their kids' education, essentially, so it's about questions about how are parents involved in, this idea of expanding out at school time programs. How are you making sure that they understand how important it is for their kids to be participating in out of school time programming?
Can we start with Alyia on that? I'm curious from your perspective, and then I'd like to hear from Paul also, and then some of the bigger partners. But those who are actually closer to hearing from parents all the time, I'm curious about your response to that question.
Yeah, I think I think we're still trying to figure out the best way to really get feedback from parents and to hear their voices and make sure they're shaping these programs. I know one of the things that we as a council announced over the summer was that we wanted to do a series of different community conversations, both with parents and with young people, to try and get us in a room and understand, oftentimes we hear concerns from parents, but they're different than sometimes what their kids are facing. And so what does it look like for us to create safe and open spaces to have that dialogue and see how we can be on the same page? I know at our school, in our school districts, Alexandria City Public Schools, they've just launched something called Parent Square, where they're actually putting resources in multiple languages and really trying to create different spaces for our parents to come and be able to share their perspective in a way that feels most comfortable to them. So all that to say, I don't know that we have that one shot, but we are trying to pilot and test many different things, and then be able to funnel that feedback and information into our youth support network so that everyone can kind of tap in and hear anything that's being elevated.
Paul, what's your thought on hearing directly from parents and parents' curiosity and demand for quality out of school time?
John, the way we've been doing that here in Phoenix Glendale area is we've made the term after school. We just extend the school. That's an extension of the day. Okay, it's the extension of what we do. And so talking to our parents, and by the way, it takes great people. I'm also blessed to work with incredible employees that do this work. But we outreach to our parents to say, we need you to have your kids here. You heard your prior speakers talk about access. We can't allow the access to get in the way. So that's where we work with our parents on what can we do to get them to be able to stay after school. Some of our students have to they have to watch their siblings. They have to take care of things before and after school, legitimate, absolute reasons. So we work with our parents, and we continue to work with our parents on, is there a way that we can have you look at the whole day in one, to then say, what can we do to make sure your kids can be in these high quality programs? And in doing that, it's parent by parent, person by person. What's your circumstance, and how can we then address the circumstance? Because again, these are hardworking people that are doing what they need to help their kids, and we want to be a part of that. So every parent, we put out messages all the time about the importance. My people, our actual coordinators, outreach all the time. We actually also use funds to actually have parent outreach folks at our schools that have these programs, so they can actually go out to the houses, make the phone calls, connect, so that this school day is no longer what we used to call it. It's before and after. And then of course, summertime just becomes a part of that too, John. Perfect system, no, but that we're getting better at showing the importance of, and then by the way, just like you heard earlier, we show the parents what the kids are benefiting from this social, emotional, really, and then we show the academics too.
Great. Jeff, I know you've got a thought on this, and Brodrick, I'm curious how you all have helped parents re-understand what's possible in summer. But first, Jeff, go ahead.
Yeah, just building on the superintendent's points, I'm super excited about the opportunity that this gives us to rethink the learning spaces. After school shouldn't be a silo separate from the school day. That's ridiculous. Kids don't think that way. Families don't operate that way. After school can be a great space to engage parents whose workday alignment doesn't really mesh well with the school day. But the kinds of learning that's taking place, really, I love the idea of being able to bleed across those traditional lines. And we're providing some private funds that complement our ESSER 3 investments in Nebraska that allow us to do more robust family engagement activities in conjunction with out-of-school time programs. But would really love to see that, becoming all school-wide events that celebrate learning, engage learning. Celebrate the kind of learning that can take place in after school and summer. We're also doing a work with the Nebraska Family Literacy group to help new Americans learning English, both parents and students. We've developed some take-home STEM backpacks that allow parents to get involved in helping to develop their children's identities as STEM learners. And again, that's just crossing all kinds of borders in terms of after school, home, school day learning. So that's one of the exciting things about Engage Every Student is that it looks at engagement, and I think can help us think in terms of how we can do that outside of our own self-imposed limitations.
Awesome. Brodrick, how have you guys thought about this question of how parents think about all these things?
I'm doing double duty because I'm just processing all the wonderful knowledge that folks have been dropping all call, but I'm trying to make sure I'm doing my part as well. But it makes me think about, well, first of all, I think you got to teach and reach parents by teaching alongside them, engaging alongside them, invite them into the programmatic community, create avenues for them to work at programs. I can tell you one of my most successful times as a program director was when I had what we called a parent partner, and we put a line in the budget. It was a small little line item, but that grandmother deserved it. She earned it. But I can tell you the amount of information that she gave me on a daily basis about what was happening in the community, what was happening with individual children and families. Some of it was probably too much information, but I was not longing for information about what to do to support families. The goodwill that you generate by having parents involved in your operation, create avenues for paid volunteers, and create your traditional volunteer opportunities as well. But when you put a little monetization on it, I think people come sometimes with a little bit of a different energy and consistency around it, and it's meeting their need too. We young people safe, we support them, we give them opportunities to interact and engage. It's a parallel process. Like adults need that very same thing. So, if we're supporting the parent, we're supporting the child, and vice versa. So let's figure out formal avenues, put it in the budget since these resources are abundant right now to make sure that parents can be involved in a very formal way and also earn a wage at the same time.
Great. Emily, come back to you.
Yep. So I wanted to, it looked like Jeff was just answering one of these questions, but I wanted to package two questions together.
Jeff, don't be such a good student. Let Emily do her work.
No, that's okay. That's okay. So the first question is really like the big question from Robin Hickey. And it's like, really, what does scaling up look like in the context of this? Like, what does it look like to really expand these after-school programs? And then the other question that Jeff just answered, which I really like the way, I'm just going to actually ask it exactly because I like the way Jesse Lewis put this. High quality staff is a huge challenge when you are paying an hourly rate for 3 hours a day. It is not an attractive position for many. How do you attract quality staff with those parameters while you're trying to scale up? So really trying to expand these opportunities, but the staffing is a big issue. So that's
Sheronda, let's start with you on that. You've been thinking about this a long time. And you're singularly responsible for the success of this initiative. Remember that. So tell us how you think about these challenges that people raise.
Absolutely. And I don't know about singularly responsible. It's a collective effort for sure. You tried, John. No. But when we think about scaling up, the reality is if we were able to engage every student, we would already be doing it. And so the fact that we have this initiative, the fact that we have the Secretary of Education saying like, we need to have this call to action to engage all of our students across the nation, like we're shining a light on the unmet demand, that 25 million students across the nation and essentially that 13.3 million that are from low income families. And so scaling up is looking at the barriers that exist and doing something about them, like addressing them, like shining a light on those challenges and then highlighting ways to overcome and address those challenges. So whether or not it is literally the lack of an existing program in your community, okay, how can we leverage ARP funds? How can we leverage fiscal recovery funds or philanthropic funds to create programs in those communities? If it is the issue of the cost of programs being too high or too expensive for parents, how can we leverage funds to lower the cost of programs for our students? If it is transportation issues, especially as we see from the existing data in our more rural communities, tackling that issue by, leveraging the funds to address that barrier with transportation or partnering with schools to utilize the buses that they're using to get students to and from school during the school day. So just really addressing the barriers and challenges that exist, that's how we're going to scale up. For the programs that are already serving students, how can they increase their capacity? How can we leverage funds for them to do that? And so that is what scaling up looks like, looking at the partnerships that exist or don't exist and developing and establishing strong partnerships across cities, across programs, across school districts. So that is what scaling up looks like. That's how we're going to get to increase capacity and increase number of our students across the nation engaged in programs.
Bryan, I saw your hand.
I did, yeah. Well, again, just building on all the great points everyone's made, and I did put it in the chat, but I just want to give Marla and Jen another shout out for their ASL work, because I, like Brodrick, am swimming and trying to keep up with these wonderful comments, and I am able to listen to them. So kudos to them for being able to do this interpretation for our brothers and sisters. But I was doing some math around a proposal because we're trying to get some funding for the Engage Every Student initiative, and just to cut the need in half, I think we need to expand or create around 50,000 new out of school time programs across this country. Now that could be expansions of existing ones. That's not all creation of new, but we would need to either expand or create 50,000 new programs to serve the number of kids we're talking about meeting. As Sheronda said, we would be engaging a lot more students. I thought the conversation around family engagement and parental need was wonderful, and Brodrick's thoughts about bringing them in, but I'm less worried about demonstrating the need for parents than I am about having opportunities for them. I think, like Alyia, there's more families that want to be engaged that are shut out because there's not enough opportunities, there's not enough access, and you've got to get online at the right time and have quality internet access, and in those first 10 minutes the slots go out. I'm much more concerned about not meeting the needs that families have than I am about trying to create more unmet demand. I think we can do that, as Brodrick said, and bringing families in and engaging them is critically important. But when we talk about what does it look like to scale this up, it's a huge national initiative with federal, state, local dollars and support, a major staffing up of the out of school time space and the professionalization and high quality folks in that area. It's meeting a lot more kids' needs just to have the issue, right? To get to about 6 million more students that are served. That's what I think we're looking at. So when we talk about really closing that gap all the way down, we're talking about another 5 or 10 years where we are all in this together and really changing the landscape of out of school time in this country. I mean, that's what we're talking about. This is big time stuff that we're charging Sheronda with. So I wish her luck, and she knows how I feel about her. She's wonderful. So I'm telling you, the scale of this work though is immense, and it's going to take all levels of government. It's going to take school districts, cities, summer learning, after school. We're going to need research dollars to make sure we're making the case. We're going to need great communications and storytelling, as Sylvia said. We're going to need great family and parent engagement. It's a yeoman's work to get this where it needs to be in the next, let's say, even 2, 3, 5-year plan for this. It's huge.
Wow. Jeff, let me come to you for a sec on the staffing question. One of the, we think about the barriers that exist for people now we're actually talking about the barriers that exist for scaling. And one of them we know, Paul's probably experienced it in his school district, is just what human capital looks like right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, unemployment, the employment rate's so low right now. It's super hard to think about scaling up. One of the strategies, and again, one of many, there's not a silver bullet, there's multiple opportunities to get involved, but we love engaging high school kids. We think the near peer energy that high school students can bring to an after school program, something that they're passionate about, the young people in that club can feel that passion. So giving high school students the opportunity to gain a foothold in the teaching or human services field through a mentorship relationship that puts them into a paid staff position in after school programs, summer programs, I think is critically important. And one of the strategies that we're really going to be pushing as we try to scale this up in every community in Nebraska will be, relying on those high school youth that we can connect with.
Interesting. I like that. Sheronda, one of the key things in the National Partnership for Student Success is a partnership with AmeriCorps. And AmeriCorps really making NPSS a focus. What about national service participants as staff members in Engage Every Student?
Absolutely. Many of our state after school networks and programs across the nation are leveraging service workers through AmeriCorps or other entities to engage students in their programs. I myself started in the field as an AmeriCorps member. And so that is, yes. Yes, with Citizen Schools in North Carolina. And so we extended the learning day for middle school students in one of the communities in Durham, North Carolina. And so we are definitely seeing that across the nation. A lot of our program staff are from AmeriCorps. And so that's definitely something that we're looking to engage through the initiative as well.
Awesome. Emily, we got time for one more?
I mean,
no, we don't.
The one thing I was going to say, and there's our poll. So we ask you to please take a minute to complete our poll. We really, really take your feedback to heart and we really use it for future sessions. So please take a minute to give us your quick feedback on the session today. But the one quick thing, well, I mean, we have 1 minute, but so I saw that Lisa Guernsey asked the question about public libraries and the Campaign for Grade Level Reading. First of all, we should say we are big fans of the near peer structure. We had a high school student on one of our webinars who started her own virtual tutoring program. And also thinking about, oh my gosh, I just completely lost my train of thought. Anyway, it's probably because we only have 1 minute left, but yes, about public libraries. So Sheronda, you were saying that, I think you responded that you're looking at examples, but yes, public libraries are intended to be a big part of the Engage Every Student, right?
Absolutely. It takes the whole community, the whole village. And so we're looking for those examples and libraries are definitely a part of that.
All right, John, close out.
I see that we're out of time. I just want to issue a huge thank you to all of our participants today. What a super engaged, interesting, provocative, hopeful and worrisome at the same time conversation. Bryan, I so underscore your comments, sort of summing up what people were saying, the size of this opportunity, but also realistically the size of this challenge. I want to underscore what Alyia said about how long a play this is also. This is not something we're going to magically do in 18 months and everything is going to be great. This is a long-term play. And to Bela for your long time leadership in this domain and seeing this come to pass. This is really great. You see on screen here are a couple of upcoming webinars. I encourage people to join us for those. And again, thank you for joining us today and thank you to all the participants.